My sister was the golden child who could do no wrong. I finally stood up to her. You won't believe what happened next. I, 32F, find myself in a complicated situation with my younger sister Rhonda, 29F, and our parents. Our family dynamic has always been unique, to say the least. Growing up in a small Midwestern town, we were known as the brainy family on the block. Our parents, both academics at the local community college, always emphasized the importance of intellectual pursuits. From a young age, it was clear that Rhonda had a knack for academics. She could recite the alphabet backwards at 3, was reading chapter books by 5, and was solving complex math problems by 8. Our parents were thrilled, constantly praising her abilities and telling anyone who would listen about their little genius. I, on the other hand, was more of an average student. I worked hard and got decent grades, but I didn't have Rhonda's natural aptitude for academics. Instead, I found joy in sports and art, but these pursuits were often overlooked in our household. I remember countless dinners where our parents would gush about Rhonda's latest accomplishment while my soccer trophies gathered dust on a shelf in the garage. Throughout elementary and middle school, Rhonda's teachers frequently requested meetings with our parents. At first, we thought it was to discuss her advanced abilities, but it soon became clear that there were concerns about her behavior. She was often rude to her classmates, disrupting lessons with know-it-all comments, and refusing to participate in group activities because she felt she was above her peers. Instead of addressing these issues, our parents always defended Rhonda. They'd come home from these meetings fuming, claiming that teachers were just jealous of Rhonda's exceptional abilities. They'd tell Rhonda not to let small-minded people hold her back. This only reinforced Rhonda's belief that she was superior to others. I remember one particular incident when Rhonda was 12 and I was 15. We were at a family barbecue, and our cousin Tommy, then 10, was excitedly showing everyone a model airplane he had built. Rhonda scoffed and said, "That's baby stuff. I could build a real working model with proper aerodynamics." Tommy's face fell, and he didn't touch his airplane for the rest of the day. Our parents, instead of correcting Rhonda, praised her knowledge of aerodynamics and suggested she might become an engineer someday. High school was more of the same. Rhonda breezed through her classes without much effort, while I worked hard to maintain my B average. Our parents rarely attended my volleyball games, but they never missed a chance to brag about Rhonda's perfect SAT scores or her early college acceptance letters. Things took a turn when Rhonda started college. She had been accepted to a prestigious university on the East Coast, and our parents were over the moon. They helped her move into her dorm, bought her a new laptop, and even gave her a credit card for emergencies. They were certain she was going to take the academic world by storm. But Rhonda struggled from the start. She wasn't used to being surrounded by other high achievers, and her usual tactics of skating by on natural intelligence weren't enough anymore. Her professors expected thorough research and well-thought-out arguments, not just regurgitated facts. Group projects were a nightmare because Rhonda couldn't work with others, always insisting her way was the only right way. Rhonda's grades started slipping, and she began calling home more often, complaining about how her professors didn't understand her genius and how her classmates were holding her back. Our parents, true to form, believed every word. They even flew out to the university to confront her professors, demanding that Rhonda be given special treatment. This pattern continued throughout Rhonda's college years. She switched majors 3 times, always blaming the curriculum or the professors for not challenging her enough. It took her 6 years to finally graduate with a degree in liberal studies, a far cry from the double major in physics and philosophy she had initially planned. After college, Rhonda moved back home, claiming she needed time to find herself and figure out her next move. Our parents welcomed her with open arms, assuring her that the right opportunity would come along soon. But months turned into years, and Rhonda still couldn't hold down a job. She'd get hired based on her impressive academic record, but would inevitably be fired within a few months due to her inability to work with others and her constant insistence that she knew better than her superiors. Our parents continued to enable her behavior, handling all her adult responsibilities and blaming the world for not understanding their special daughter. They paid her bills, did her laundry, and even tried to intervene with her employers when she got fired. I, meanwhile, had moved out at 22, built a career in marketing, and started a family with my husband Jack, 34M. We have a daughter, Tanya, 10F, who's the light of our lives. Tanya is a bright, curious child with a passion for science and nature. She works hard in school and has a kind heart, always looking out for her classmates and helping where she can. Over the years, I've distanced myself from my family. The constant drama surrounding Rhonda and our parents' blind devotion to her became too much to handle. I limit our visits to major holidays and special occasions, which brings me to the incident that happened last month. It was our grandmother's 80th birthday, and the whole family gathered at my parents' house to celebrate. Jack, Tanya, and I arrived early to help with the preparations. Tanya was excited to show everyone her latest science project, a detailed model of the solar system she had been working on for weeks. As relatives started arriving, Tanya proudly displayed her project on the dining room table. Most of the family was impressed, praising Tanya's hard work and attention to detail. But then Rhonda walked in. At first, Rhonda ignored the project, but as more people complimented Tanya, I could see Rhonda getting agitated. Finally, she walked over and started examining the model with a critical eye. "Well," Rhonda said loudly, "I suppose it's not bad for a child's work. But you know, when I was your age, I was already studying astrophysics. This model isn't even to scale, and where's the Kuiper belt?" Tanya's face fell, and I could see tears welling up in her eyes. Before I could intervene, Rhonda continued, "It's a shame you didn't inherit the family's intelligence genes. But I guess someone has to be average, right?" That's when I lost it. I pulled Rhonda aside and told her in no uncertain terms to stop belittling Tanya's achievements. Rhonda just laughed and said, "Come on, sis. We both know she'll never be as smart as me. I'm just being honest. Shouldn't we prepare her for the real world?" I was furious. I told Rhonda that she had no right to judge anyone, especially a child who was actually putting in effort and achieving things. I pointed out that despite her so-called intelligence, she was living off our parents at nearly 30 years old and had nothing to show for her gifted status. Our parents overheard and immediately rushed to Rhonda's defense. They started lecturing me about how I don't understand Rhonda's struggles and how the world isn't fair to truly exceptional people like her. I countered by saying that Rhonda isn't exceptional, she's just entitled and lazy. The argument escalated quickly. I brought up all the years of favoritism, the enablement of Rhonda's bad behavior, and how it had ultimately harmed her rather than helped her. I told our parents that they were responsible for creating this situation by constantly inflating Rhonda's ego and never holding her accountable. "You've done Rhonda no favors," I said. "You've crippled her ability to function in the real world. She can't hold a job, she can't maintain relationships, and she's still living in your basement at 29. And now she's taking out her frustrations on a 10-year-old. When are you going to wake up and realize that this isn't normal or healthy?" The room fell silent. Our relatives looked uncomfortable, some nodding in agreement while others seemed shocked by my outburst. Rhonda stormed off to her room, slamming the door like a teenager. Our parents stood there, mouths agape, clearly not used to having anyone challenge their narrative. We left the party early, with Tanya still sniffling and Jack trying to comfort her. Since then, I've been getting nonstop calls and messages from family members. Some are angry, saying I ruined Grandma's birthday and caused unnecessary drama. Others are supportive, saying it's about time someone stood up to Rhonda and our parents. My parents have been calling daily, alternating between guilt-tripping me for attacking Rhonda and trying to persuade me to apologize. Rhonda hasn't reached out at all, but I hear from cousins that she's been posting vague, passive-aggressive comments on social media about toxic family members and the burden of being misunderstood. I don't regret standing up for Tanya, but I'm starting to wonder if I handled the situation poorly. Should I have just ignored Rhonda's comments and addressed it later? Am I wrong for calling out my sister and parents so bluntly? How do I move forward from here without completely severing ties with my family? Update 1. It's been about a month since the blow-up at my grandmother's birthday party, and a lot has happened. I wanted to provide an update on the situation with my sister Rhonda and our family. A week after the party, my parents reached out and asked if we could meet to discuss what happened. I was hesitant but agreed, hoping we could have a productive conversation. Jack came with me for support, and we met at a neutral location, a local coffee shop that held a lot of memories for our family. It was where we used to go for ice cream after school, back when things were simpler. When we arrived, I was surprised to see that Rhonda wasn't there. My parents explained that they wanted to talk to me alone first. They looked tired, older somehow, as if the events of the past month had aged them. They started by saying they had done some reflection on what I said at the party and realized there might be some truth to it. My mom, her voice quavering, admitted that they may have gone overboard with praising Rhonda's intelligence while neglecting to teach her important life skills. My dad, always the more stoic one, acknowledged that their constant defense of her behavior probably did more harm than good in the long run. As they spoke, memories flooded back. I remembered the time in high school when I made the honor roll for the first time. I was so excited to tell my parents, but when I got home, they were busy fawning over Rhonda's science fair project. My achievement was acknowledged with a distracted "that's nice, dear" before they returned their attention to Rhonda. It was a small moment, but indicative of a larger pattern. However, despite these admissions, my parents were still reluctant to take full responsibility. They brought up Rhonda's recent self-diagnosis of being twice exceptional, gifted but with ADHD. They used this as a reason for her struggles and said we needed to be more understanding. I pointed out that even if Rhonda does have ADHD, it doesn't excuse her behavior towards others, especially children. I also emphasized that a self-diagnosis isn't the same as a professional one and suggested that Rhonda should see a psychologist for a proper evaluation and potential treatment. My parents seemed to consider this idea but were clearly uncomfortable with it. The thought of their perfect daughter needing professional help seemed to challenge their worldview. They asked if I would be willing to have a family meeting with Rhonda present to clear the air. I agreed but set some ground rules. 1. Rhonda would need to apologize to Tanya for her comments. 2. We would discuss setting boundaries and expectations for family interactions. 3. If Rhonda couldn't remain civil, Jack, Tanya, and I would leave immediately. They reluctantly agreed to these terms. We scheduled the meeting for the following weekend at their house. The days leading up to the meeting were tense. I found myself reminiscing about our childhood, trying to pinpoint where things had gone so wrong. I remembered the science fairs where Rhonda would win first place while I manned the bake sale booth. The parent-teacher conferences where our parents would beam with pride at Rhonda's progress and then rush through my teacher's comments. The family dinners where Rhonda would dominate the conversation with complex topics while my attempts to share my day were met with distracted nods. When the day of the meeting arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. Jack gave my hand a reassuring squeeze as we pulled up to my parents' house. It was the home we'd grown up in, but it felt different now, loaded with years of unspoken tension. Rhonda was there when we arrived, looking sullen. My parents had apparently filled her in on our previous conversation. The living room, once a place of warm family gatherings, now felt like a battleground. To my surprise, Rhonda started by offering a half-hearted apology to Tanya. It wasn't great, but it was a start. Tanya, ever the peacemaker, accepted it graciously. For a moment, I allowed myself to hope that this meeting might actually be productive. However, things quickly went downhill from there. As we tried to discuss boundaries and expectations, Rhonda became defensive. She accused me of being jealous of her intelligence and claimed I was trying to turn the family against her. When I brought up her employment issues and living situation, she exploded. Rhonda started listing all her perceived accomplishments and how the world simply wasn't ready for someone of her caliber. She said things like, "You can't possibly understand the burden of being this smart, and it's not my fault society doesn't know how to utilize my talents." As she ranted, I couldn't help but think of all the opportunities Rhonda had squandered over the years. The internships she'd turned down because they were beneath her. The friendships she'd ruined with her condescending attitude. The potential she had wasted because she refused to put in any real effort. I remained calm and tried to steer the conversation back to concrete issues and solutions. I suggested that Rhonda could benefit from career counseling or even going back to school to gain practical skills. This only made her more agitated. Our parents, true to form, began to side with Rhonda. They started making excuses for her behavior and telling me I was being too harsh. It was like watching a replay of every family argument we'd ever had, with Rhonda as the victim and me as the unreasonable aggressor. After about an hour of circular arguments and increasing tension, I decided it was time to leave. As we were walking out, Rhonda made another snide comment about Tanya's intelligence. That was the last straw. I turned to my parents and said, "This is exactly why we can't have a relationship right now. Until you're ready to stop enabling this behavior and start holding Rhonda accountable, we need to take a step back." The drive home was quiet. Tanya, perceptive as always, asked if we'd ever see Grandma and Grandpa again. It broke my heart to tell her I wasn't sure. Since then, I've decided to go low contact with my parents and no contact with Rhonda for the time being. It's been difficult, especially explaining to Tanya why we won't be visiting her grandparents as often. But I feel it's necessary for my own family's well-being. I'm still processing everything that happened and trying to figure out the best way forward. Part of me hopes this will be a wake-up call for my parents and Rhonda, but I'm not holding my breath. For now, I'm focusing on supporting Tanya and making sure she knows her worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion of her intelligence. The whole situation has made me reflect on my own parenting. I've made a conscious effort to praise Tanya's efforts rather than her innate abilities, to encourage her interests even when they don't align with academic pursuits, and to make sure she knows she's loved unconditionally. As for my relationship with my parents and Rhonda, only time will tell. I'm open to reconciliation if real changes are made, but I'm also prepared for the possibility that this rift might be permanent. It's a painful thought, but I need to prioritize my own family's emotional health. I'm grateful for the support I've received from Jack, from friends, and from some family members who understand the situation. It's been a difficult month, but I'm hopeful that whatever happens, it will lead to a healthier, happier future for all of us. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some unexpected developments in the situation with my sister Rhonda and our family. About a month ago, I received a call from my aunt, my mom's sister. She told me that Rhonda had a major falling out with our parents and moved out of their house. Apparently, our parents had finally started setting some boundaries and expectations for Rhonda, including getting a job and contributing to household expenses. Rhonda didn't take this well and left in a huff, claiming she was being oppressed and unappreciated. I was surprised by this turn of events but didn't want to get involved. However, a week later, I received a text from Rhonda asking if we could meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed to have coffee with her. When we met at our old high school hangout spot, I was shocked by Rhonda's appearance. She looked disheveled and stressed, a far cry from her usually polished look. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. It was as if seeing her outside of our parents' protective bubble had stripped away the veneer of the gifted child. Rhonda started by apologizing for her behavior at the family meeting and towards Tanya. It seemed genuine, which caught me off guard. She admitted that she had been couch surfing with friends since leaving our parents' house and was struggling to find a job. For the first time in her life, Rhonda seemed truly humbled. As we talked, Rhonda opened up about her experiences over the past few months. She confessed that she had applied for several entry-level positions but was repeatedly rejected after interviews. She realized that her lack of work experience and her attitude during interviews were major obstacles. Rhonda then asked if I could help her find employment. I was hesitant, remembering all the time she had dismissed my career as beneath her intellectual capabilities. But seeing her genuinely struggling and asking for help for the first time in her life, I decided to give her a chance. I reached out to my friend Sarah, who owns a small independent bookstore in town. I've known Sarah since college and she's always been understanding and patient. After explaining Rhonda's situation, Sarah agreed to give her a part-time position at the store. I made it clear to Rhonda that this was her opportunity to prove herself, and I wouldn't intervene if any issues arose. To my surprise, Rhonda has been doing well at the bookstore for the past month. Sarah reports that she's punctual, works hard, and is even getting along with her coworkers. Rhonda seems to enjoy being around books and helping customers find what they need. It's a far cry from the high-powered career she always imagined for herself, but she appears to be finding satisfaction in the small daily accomplishments. Last week, Rhonda invited me to have dinner with her at her new apartment. It's a tiny studio in a part of town we used to consider beneath us growing up, nothing like the comfortable setup she had at our parents' house, but she seems proud of it. The place was small but tidy, with second-hand furniture and a few potted plants on the windowsill, Rhonda's first attempt at caring for something other than herself. During dinner, which she cooked herself, another first, Rhonda opened up about how leaving our parents' house had been a wake-up call. She admitted that she had been using her giftedness as a crutch and an excuse for her behavior. The real world, she realized, cared less about her IQ and more about her ability to work hard and get along with others. Rhonda also shared that she's started seeing a therapist to work through her issues. She's been diagnosed with anxiety, which she's now addressing. She talked about how she's learning to manage her perfectionist tendencies and to find value in things other than academic or intellectual achievements. What struck me most was when Rhonda started talking about Tanya. She asked how Tanya was doing and seemed genuinely interested in hearing about her niece's life. Rhonda even apologized again for her treatment of Tanya and asked if she could write her a letter. I agreed but said I'd need to read it first before deciding whether to give it to Tanya. As I left Rhonda's apartment that night, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me was cautiously optimistic about these changes, but another part remained wary. Years of entitlement and bad behavior don't disappear overnight. I've made it clear to Rhonda that rebuilding our relationship will take time and consistent effort on her part. As for our parents, they've been trying to reconnect with both of us. They called me a few weeks ago, sounding subdued and reflective. They admitted that they made mistakes in how they raised Rhonda and enabled her behavior. They're also seeing a family therapist to work on their issues, which is a big step for them. I'm still maintaining some distance, but I've agreed to occasional family dinners, as long as everyone respects the boundaries we've set. Our first dinner together was awkward but civil. Rhonda was quieter than usual, our parents were trying hard not to fall back into old patterns, and I was on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But we made it through without any major incidents. It's a work in progress, and I'm trying to manage my expectations. There's a long road ahead in rebuilding trust and establishing healthier family dynamics. But for the first time in years, I feel like there might be hope for our family relationships. I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on my own family while cautiously rebuilding bridges with Rhonda and our parents. It's not easy, and there are still moments of tension and old habits creeping in. But we're all trying, and for now, that has to be enough. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in our family situation. The journey hasn't been smooth, but we've made progress that I never thought possible a year ago. Rhonda has continued to make strides in her personal growth and career. She's been promoted to assistant manager at the bookstore, impressing Sarah with her work ethic and customer service skills. Rhonda confided in me that she never realized how much satisfaction she could get from helping others find the perfect book or organizing a successful author event. She's also started taking online classes in business management. It's a far cry from the theoretical physics she once dreamed of pursuing, but Rhonda seems to genuinely enjoy learning practical skills that she can apply to her job. She often jokes about how she wished she had taken some of these classes in college instead of advanced quantum mechanics. Rhonda's therapist has been helping her develop better coping mechanisms for her anxiety. She's learning to interact with others more positively, and I've noticed a significant decrease in her need to constantly prove her intelligence. Last month, she even attended a local trivia night with her coworkers and came in second place. The old Rhonda would have been devastated by not winning, but she called me afterward, laughing about the pop culture questions that stumped her team. The most significant change has been in Rhonda's relationship with Tanya. After I approved the letter Rhonda wrote, Tanya and Rhonda have been slowly rebuilding their aunt-niece relationship. Rhonda has shown genuine interest in Tanya's activities and achievements, offering encouragement without comparison or criticism. Last month, Rhonda asked if she could attend Tanya's science fair. I was hesitant, remembering the disaster at our grandmother's birthday party, but decided to give her a chance. To my relief and pride, Rhonda was supportive and encouraging throughout the event. She even helped Tanya calm her nerves before her presentation, sharing some breathing techniques she'd learned in therapy. After Tanya's presentation, Rhonda praised her niece's hard work and creativity. When another child won first place, Rhonda surprised me by encouraging Tanya to congratulate the winner and to be proud of her own project. It was a small moment, but it showed how far Rhonda has come. Our parents have also been making efforts to change. They've completed a parenting course and continue to see their family therapist. They've apologized to both Rhonda and me for their past behavior and are learning to set appropriate boundaries. It's been challenging for them to break habits formed over decades, but they're trying. We recently had our first full family gathering since the incident at my grandmother's birthday. It wasn't perfect, there were some awkward moments and old habits that crept in. I noticed our mom start to excessively praise Rhonda at one point, but she caught herself and quickly changed the subject. Dad still sometimes talks about Rhonda's special gifts, but he's learning to acknowledge everyone's unique strengths. Rhonda had a moment where she started to make a condescending comment about Tanya's school project, but she stopped herself mid-sentence, took a deep breath, and instead asked Tanya to tell her more about it. These small moments of self-awareness and course correction give me hope. While I'm pleased with the progress, I'm still maintaining some caution. Years of dysfunction can't be erased in a few months. We're taking things slowly and continuing to work on our communication and boundaries. There are still tense moments and disagreements, but we're learning to handle them more constructively. This experience has taught me the importance of addressing issues head-on, even when it's uncomfortable. It's also shown me that people can change if they're willing to put in the effort and accept responsibility for their actions. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of our family relationships. We're not perfect, and we never will be. But we're moving in the right direction, learning to appreciate each other's strengths, support each other through weaknesses, and build a healthier family dynamic. As for Tanya, she's thriving. She knows she's loved and supported for who she is, not for any perceived exceptional abilities. And that, I believe, is the greatest gift we can give her.